You're listening to the Young Buck Old Buck podcast, brought to you by Forest and Sky.
There we go. Heads up.
Touch him up. Dead bird. Dead bird. Get it, Sky. Get it.
Good job, buddy. Keep flopping. All right, it is your host, Young Buck, Daniel DeForge. And that's right, if there's a young buck, that means there's an old buck. We have in their house with us, BW, Bruce Smith. Bruce, how you doing?
Glad to be here, Daniel, man. This is awesome.
I can't believe we're doing it. We are starting a podcast.
Overdue, about sneaking time. Anything you can think of that goes along with that, buddy. This is happening, and I am excited.
We have talked about this a long time. In fact, Bruce and I have known each other for a decent amount of time, but more often we knew of each other. And
Very true.
Just the past 5 years, Bruce and I have developed an awesome friendship. And through that friendship, this podcast has been developed.
And a lot of other cool stuff, too. This is just one more thing in the whole story. So
Yeah, and our wives would say one more thing is kind of our mantra, you and I.
yeah, that's a fact. Cindy's shaking her head right now. She's sitting at home going, "What are those guys into tonight?" I can hear her.
That's right. So, hey, we're going to have 3 segments of this podcast, and Bruce and I, we're excited to dive into this. The first segment that you can expect every show, we're going to give you an outdoors update. And Bruce and I are both people of the outdoors. We love hunting. Bruce has a long history with fishing. Bruce owns a yellow lab who is trained as a gun dog, and we get into some fun together. And so we will give you stories, we'll give you updates of where we're going, what we're doing, what we're up to, and then segment number 2 is going to be kind of the meat of the podcast, what we're going to discuss during the show for that week. And then I think we're most excited about segment number 3. Bruce, what's segment number 3?
Segment 3 is going to be all about what the Lord's teaching us in our walk currently. And with Daniel and I, we probably need more than a little correction on a daily basis. So he's teaching us a lot.
That's right. Yeah, and so first and foremost, Bruce and I, we love the Lord.
Amen.
And we love the outdoors, but we know who provides the outdoors for us. And so we want to glorify the Lord through this podcast. The name, Young Buck, Old Buck. Bruce, talk about that name. What does that name mean to us?
Well, it's a very endearing term for us, as you and I both know. But, well, I think it goes back to maybe finding a roadkill deer back. I'm thinking back. Yeah, Daniel called me one day, and they'd found a roadkill deer, a giant, right by my house, and we were able to get it, and it was an absolute monster. It was a real shame that it was roadkill. But out of that story came the young buck, old buck, and we just developed it from there. It's fun. It's a mentoring relationship in a sense. Truthfully, Daniel mentors me a lot more than I mentor him, but we like to prefer as a young buck, old buck relationship as a mentoring thing. But I think it really did stem from finding a roadkill deer of all things.
Yeah.
Just an absolute beautiful buck. It was just such a shame. I felt bad for the people. The car got totaled, but we have a rack to commemorate that memory.
Mm-hmm. What's crazy about that story, too, is that buck got hit on a Saturday morning in June, I believe.
In June.
At like 10 o'clock, broad daylight.
Open field.
I mean,
absolutely bizarre. In the middle of an open field, crossed 40.
Yeah.
And that poor little neon was never the same again.
Yeah. Absolutely crazy. So, young buck, old buck. I mentioned Bruce and I have a little bit of a history, and you know what? We have a common place that we love and that place is Bear Lake Bible Camp.
Yes, sir.
And I am on staff full-time at Bear Lake. That's my job. And Bruce has been involved with camp since what year, Bruce?
1969.
1960. I wasn't even a speck in my mama's eye yet.
Even thought about it.
I don't even think my
I
parents
don't think your
could date.
parents were married.
Oh, yeah. So what is wild about our relationship, too, is while Bear Lake Bible Camp is kind of what brought us together, we actually lived in the same city for a long time, 2.5 hours away. I grew up in Livonia. Bruce lived in Livonia for how many years?
38 years.
38
30
years.
I didn't grow up in Livonia, but close.
Yeah. And I moved out here when I was 18. And Bruce and I actually lived like 2 miles apart from each other in Livonia for probably over 15
A
years.
long time.
Yeah.
A very long time.
Yeah. But we didn't grow that friendship, that relationship until I was out here. Bruce and I have a dear common friend who unfortunately passed away in 2018. That kind of was the connection between us, David Lee Stiles. Mm-hmm. And you know what? We will dedicate a whole show to Dave because that is a whole other show.
That is a whole show. There's a lot of laughs.
Yeah. So, but you know, Dave was a mentor in my life and invested in me big time. He's the one that actually got me into hunting. He taught me about whitetail hunting. He showed me kind of the ropes, and we did deer camp with each other frequently. And so, you know, when Dave had passed, I was kind of missing that mentor role in my life, and I wanted to seek somebody out, and the Lord just so happened to bring Bruce in at the perfect time for that. And so, Bruce, talk to us a little bit about, from your perspective, how that kind of started.
Well, my story here is so long, you know, but for 25 years, my dear friend Bob Tissa tried to get me to move out here, and not until I retired, did those doors actually open, and we bought a place close by. So just being here more often and getting to know you through all that, I don't know, God just opened those doors to develop our relationship. And sadly, really, through the loss of Dave. Dave was a dear friend of mine. I spent, I don't know how many hours and how many days out here working at camp with him. You know, so that void was huge. And I really feel like God put us together to kind of fill that gap, if you will. I mean, I could talk a lot about stories of why that all happened, but
Yeah.
that's really how I feel.
Yeah. And I remember an intentional conversation that we had where I said, Bruce, listen, I'm looking for this mentor in my life, an older man, to speak truth, to encourage and to correct me when I'm being what we would call is a knucklehead. And I can say that term loud and proud now because my kids aren't around and Anna isn't there to smack me upside the head.
Well, most days we wear it pretty well.
Yeah.
And I told you I'd find you somebody. And then I looked in the mirror and I thought, I guess I'm that somebody. So here we are.
Yeah. And in a moment I will never forget is I feel like what kind of solidified it was a men's retreat weekend at camp. And this was just like a week after you had said yes to this whole idea of mentorship. And you gave me a pocket knife that was your father's. Mm-hmm. And it kind of commemorated that moment, solidified that moment. And it has been a journey ever since. And so it's been fun.
You seem to have maybe picked up a couple things of my dad's over the years.
I may have a 22 sitting in the gun safe that is pretty stinking special to me these days.
Pretty sweet. And I'm blessed to know where it's at. The memories that go with it. And every time I see it, you know, I've got great memories of hunting with my dad. I have the exact same gun. So
yeah,
that's really cool stuff.
Yeah.
For sure.
And you know what's fun about this whole young buck, old buck thing is we actually have a very expensive sign that has young buck, old buck written all over it
I wonder what knucklehead bought that.
at some auction to support some youth camp that we both love and cherish.
Yes, yeah. I might have lost my mind on that a little bit, but it's okay.
Eventually we will do a podcast in front of that sign.
Oh, when the man cave's done, we're going to do a couple of them from up there, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For sure.
For sure.
Well, cool. So we have this young buck, old buck thing. You heard the intro. It is presented by Forest and Sky, which is something that is kind of my baby, and I have nurtured it. I've entrusted others to come alongside, and that has been awesome as well. Forest and Sky is something that was kind of brought through with my journey with Dave, and we'll go into kind of the launch of Forest and Sky in a different episode. I have Will Boyer is also a huge part of Forest and Sky, and he helps run that. But the whole heart and idea is, again, that mentorship, teaching kids how to hunt, especially have a heart for fatherless kids. Have had the opportunity to take a young man turkey hunting and get his first turkey, and that was a huge blessing, and loved being a part of that. But we have a lot of different journeys that come alongside that. A lot of different people that love us, support us, and like to be a part of the ride. So throughout the year, you'll experience different guests. We'll bring different people in. We'll be able to tell different stories. But again, this podcast is all rooted in that idea of the outdoors, of the importance of mentorship, and glorifying the Lord through those things. Mm-hmm. And so let's talk about, let's kind of jump back, take a step back. Let's talk a little bit about an outdoors update. We are in the month of February. We just ended the late season waterfowl season, which I got out a whopping one time. We had one flock do it right. And we all biffed on that flock and shot one bird. And sometimes that's just how it goes. And Bruce and I, we've done a little bit of upland hunting together. Bruce, talk to the audience a little bit about the dog, talk about our journey upland hunting together and some stories of that.
So my background is more in the upland phase. Through Daniel, I've gotten interested a bit in duck hunting, so that this dog idea came along, and I jumped in on it big time. So, we have collectively gotten her trained up. We have a dear friend who's her breeder, who is a very good trainer. He kept her for 3 months after she was about 10 months old, and really kicked her up a notch as far as her retrieving abilities and commands that he taught her. It was really a cool thing to experience. It just so happens we named her Sky as a tip of the hat to the Forest and Sky. Yeah, she's a dynamo, lots of energy. So go back a little bit. As I'm more of an upland guy, Daniel's more of a waterfowl guy. Used to be anyway. Not sure anymore. So the dog is really, really good in the upland hunting, open field, chasing pheasants, chasing chukar, chasing quail. She's just a dynamo. She doesn't stop. She's not a pointer. She's a flusher. Her mark abilities are amazing. Mm-hmm. And again, she's good at command. She learned to hunt close early on. So I'm always blown away by how smart labs really are when you get them in the field. They're just a natural hunter, and watching them work is a pretty amazing thing.
Yeah, and as I was talking to Ryan, our dog trainer, who is also the dog breeder, one thing that we were kind of talking about is Sky has so much drive that, honestly, waterfowl hunting is a little bit of a weakness because of sometimes the steadiness aspect. But because that drive is there at an increased amount, she thrives in the upland environment.
She does. I loved Ryan's comment after the tower shoot on Friday. She's got the drive I love. He sent me that text Friday, and that kind of warmed my heart. I was really glad to hear him say that. Like, I know she's fired up all the time and jumpy and all that. But man, she never wants to quit. She's just good at what she does, and she just wants to keep doing it.
Yeah, for sure. And so Sky gets a lot of her experience, and we are not sponsored by any means, but I will name drop and shout Willow Lake Sportsman's Club in Three Rivers on 131, partly owned and operated by Paul Tucker. He does a fantastic job, but Paul is the man. He runs a great operation over there, and Willow Lake is top notch and is really our go-to spot around here for bringing people along to experience upland hunting, to get the dog experience, and just to have fun ourselves, to get out and enjoy the outdoors. But you and I, we're not just bird hunters. We love whitetail hunting as well.
Oh yeah.
And we have some pretty good whitetail stories that I am sure we will get into at a later
I know we're going
date.
down that path sooner or later, so I'll just have to suck it up and keep trucking.
Yep. And so, we're also turkey hunters. Turkey season's coming up. I feel like, you and I kind of thrive in the turkey season because it's a little easier to get out and get back to work when we're turkey hunting. We went to Tennessee last year, had a great trip. I just bought new shells. Shout out Boss Shot Shells. Just ordered another 10 rounds. Goodness gracious. Listen, I tell you what. I need 10 rounds because I have a history of shooting 4 times at the same bird.
I wasn't going to bring that up, Daniel. I was going to let it go.
But those things aren't cheap, and it is not a knock on Boss. That is just the current pricing structure, and you know what? They are very competitive with their pricing, but, man, I think those 10 rounds cost me close to $120, which is not an easy thing to swallow all the time.
But when you get down to where you're shooting a bird with a shell, you'll be okay.
That's right. It's a much better financial...
The cost amortizes out a lot longer.
Yes. Yeah. But back to whitetail hunting. We are in Southwest Michigan, which is actually a pretty decent area when it comes to whitetail hunting. Now, listen, Michigan in general, there is mixed opinions out there as far as the quality of whitetail state. And the biggest knock that we're going to hear is the way that the DNR manages Michigan as far as whitetail goes. There are some other states where I think we would say do it much better. And because of that, their herd has been quality over the years. But we are very fortunate to be in the area that we're in as far as Michigan goes. Southwest Michigan holds big bucks. We've seen them. We've experienced it. It has a lot of deer historically. Typically you go for a drive around here and you are seeing fields just piled up with whitetail. But this year was different.
Oh, boy.
Much different. And Bruce, talk to us about what we experienced this year.
So right up through June and into July, I was seeing bucks on a regular basis, a lot of bachelor groups, and some real quality deer, real close to where we live here. And those numbers started to dwindle off, and we started hearing people talking about finding deer dead here and deer dead there, and then you start hearing more and more stories. Well, then we finally confirmed what they call an EHD outbreak. It's a parasitic disease that deer get, and they die rapidly. It happens in a drought season where they go to water and they get a midge in their nose. It infests the deer, and from my understanding, it's a 2 or 3 day thing, and they're usually dead by the water. And I started hearing numbers 50, 80, 100. I mean, we talked to one friend who found 120 on one walk. Like our county, we were kind of the episode right here in the Jones area, Three Rivers State game, that just really got hit hard by this. It pretty much decimated our whitetail herd. But you didn't have to go very far to get back into quality deer. I had a friend shoot that 160, 15 miles south of here. To the west, they were shooting decent deer. 10 miles north, they were still shooting decent deer. But right here, most of our deer succumb to that disease. It's really a spectacular thing. It takes out so many deer. So consequently, Bruce didn't even buy a deer tag this year. I took the year off.
And I bought my tags in June before this all broke out. It was like lesson learned there. Maybe get a pulse on what the fall looks like before you spend all that money to buy 3 tags that you're not going to fill.
And we hope that really over the next couple of years, I think we'll get deer will filter in, less pressure in the surrounding areas. I think we don't necessarily have to wait for the deer to repopulate our specific area. I think we'll get deer will range in probably quicker than when this happened back around 2011, I think it was. I think it was more widespread back then, and it took 4 or 5 years before you started seeing quality deer. So I'm kind of hoping that we see a little quicker resurgence in the herd numbers here.
Yeah, and just to give you a look at, how many deer we actually lost, the DNR is estimating close to 90% of our herd was lost in this hot area that really impacted and where the EHD was really prevalent. And so, I was still probably pretty fortunate. I sat probably, 7 or 8 times this year, and I think there was only once where I didn't actually see a deer. But what was really interesting is the deer that you would see was typically younger deer. I mean, it was yearlings, fresh deer. And so it just, I don't know if there's science behind that, if it really didn't impact the younger part of the herd as much as the older part, or if last year's numbers just kind of boomed, and so there's more younger deer walking around this year. But I mean, we have a buddy who owns a farm, probably an 80-acre lot, maybe 120, and he went for a walk, and I mean, he found like 5 or 6 monster racks that were just dead, rotted.
That's the hard part to understand. It kills the giants.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what the science is behind any of that. I don't even pretend to understand it.
Mm-hmm.
The few deer that we have seen, like you said, are young. Yeah, we had 2 does in the backyard about 3 weeks ago. I hadn't seen a deer in the backyard in months. Steve, a friend of ours, is here at camp for a couple of days. Took a walk today. He saw 5 deer out in the pines.
Wow.
So that's encouraging.
Yeah.
The most I'd heard is a couple at a time. So mostly does. Mm-hmm. That we know of anyway.
Yeah.
But it's encouraging to know that there are still at least a handful of deer right here in our area.
Yeah. And so that's, a little bit of our whitetail season in a nutshell. We'll get after it. Of course this happens with me, right? I bought the Matthews Lift this past spring. I was so stinking excited about this bow. It is sitting right next to me, hanging on the wall. And
it's beautiful hanging there too.
It is. It's gorgeous.
Artwork.
But of course, the year that I buy this bow, and I am just ready to slay anything that walks in front of me, this disease comes through, and it's just like nah. And so I'm looking forward to eventually putting that thing to work, and hopefully balancing out the doe buck ratio here a little bit, because that is definitely an issue in our area.
Definitely.
Guys are typically only shooting bucks, and there are a lot of does around here.
Guys need to learn they have to take a doe.
Yeah.
You go to Indiana, you have to kill a doe before you can kill a buck.
Yeah. And I would honestly love for Michigan to do that.
So would I. I'd support that 100%.
Yeah. So that's our whitetail season. Like I said, we are about a month and a half away, maybe around 2 months away from turkey season. And we love chasing some turkeys, and so I'm sure there'll be plenty of talks and conversations about that coming up, and we'll talk about our Tennessee trip.
Yeah, well, the turkey thing, it might be my favorite. It might just be if I really had to pick between turkey hunting and deer hunting. Oh man, it'd be tough for me to pick one because I really love turkey hunting.
Would you put that above squirrel hunting as well? Because you're a big squirrel hunter. No,
squirrel hunting's a life thing for me. That's how my dad trained me to hunt. That's what I did with my dad for years. Squirrel hunt's a whole different thing.
Okay.
So, no.
Yeah.
No. But I mean, I love turkey hunting. I love the the idea that you have to talk to them, you have to lure them in. I love all of it. And a lot of times for me, killing a bird is almost anticlimactic. Really getting a bird in to range, you beat them.
Yeah.
That's always how I felt about it. So, so our Tennessee trip, we had the opportunity to go down to in Tennessee. It's a Christian camp. We have some connections to, and made some arrangements through a friend to go down and stay in one of their cabins. They were super cool with us. Gave us a cabin to use, gave us the lay of the land. They own 300 and some acres, I think, and they only use a small percentage of it. So Daniel and I drove down and tried to learn as much as we could real quick. Got on birds and pretty much got our tails kicked by the birds for the 3 days we hunted.
Yeah.
But we learned a lot.
And I think, honestly, one of the biggest things that I learned is Tennessee birds and Michigan birds are different.
I totally believe it.
And how they play the game. You know what? If I could do it over, if we drove there tonight and hunted tomorrow morning, I would set up a blind in the smack dab middle of a wide open field, right near the roost, and I'd sit there all day long with decoys about 20 yards from my blind, and I can almost guarantee you I would bag a tom.
I don't doubt it at all. And it's not something we do here.
No.
They'd look out there and go, I'm not going out there.
Right.
Nope. But we saw it. We saw it every day we were there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's their daytime habits seem to be quite a bit different.
Yeah. It was a fun trip, though, and boy, was it hot.
It was hot, and let me tell you, Tennessee's got some ticks.
Bruce is a tick magnet.
Yeah, baby.
I did not get one tick on me, and we would get back from hunting, and we'd be in the bathroom, and Bruce would have like 7 ticks crawling all over him. It kind of freaked you out a little bit.
Oh, it did, because they weren't just crawling on me. They were stuck to my neck and stuck to my back and stuck to places we don't talk about. And yeah, that was quite the adventure.
Yeah. So good memories there. I'm sure we will have more adventures. This spring is going to be a little different for me. I have a newborn on the way who is actually supposed to be born here in about 2 or 3 weeks. And so approaching turkey season, my third child will only probably be about a month old. And let me just tell you folks, okay, I learned my lesson with child number 2, who just so happened to be born in the month of October. And so listen, men in particular, if you happen to have a child in the smack dab of hunting season, you need to know, as much as you want to fight tooth and nail that your season will not be any different, it will be different.
Wrong. That's all I got to say. Wrong. Bad planning. If you're a hunter and you're planning your family, look at the calendar a little differently.
Yes. And you know what? I made mistakes. Mistakes were made with child number 2. There were times where I went hunting when I probably should not have gone hunting out of love and respect for my wife. And so when you go home and there's kids crying and there's wives crying, you know you done messed up. And so lessons have been learned.
Take up the slack, boys.
That's right. Get your notepads out, write down, and don't do the same mistakes that I did. And I am committed to being better this time around. You know, at work, we talk about spiritual, professional, and personal goals. And one of my personal goals this year, and this is kind of changing on a serious note here for a second, is I want to be able to say that I spend more time with my family than I do my hobbies. And so obviously hunting is a hobby. And I want to be able to confidently say I invest more time with my wife and kids than I do my hobbies. And so that's just a personal goal of mine this year, and is definitely going to be an important one as we grow and expand our family. And so looking forward to that. And you know what's kind of fun is Audrey, my daughter, turns 5 this year, and I always told her when she hits 5, she can start going hunting with Dad.
As it should be.
How old were your kids when they first experienced anything outdoors related with you?
Probably younger than that. I had the kids. I had one of those little youth 22s, and I had them shooting it as soon as they could hold it. All of my kids that way. And we did outdoor stuff. You know, my kids camped. We didn't do fancy vacations and stuff. So we camped and we fished and we did stuff like that in their childhood. So I tried to instill a love for the outdoors in them as early as I possibly could. And I've watched you do that with Audrey. And even Calvin is already showing, you know, at 3, he's already showing signs. He just loves it.
Yeah. Calvin, I don't think is going to hunt with a bow or a gun. I think he's just going to jump out of a tree with a knife and...
or a sling. I mean, he could be a little David, you know, with a rock. I mean, he could take anything out. The kid is, yeah.
Bruce, you've referred to him as Bam Bam.
Bam Bam. I have actually said that Calvin is a real life Bam Bam. and I kind of meant it.
Yeah, for sure. Love that kid. Bruce, let's kind of transition here into segment 3. As we wrap up, we are going to strive to keep these episodes around the 25, 30-minute mark, if not less than that. And as we move forward, you know, it takes a long time to set the stage, right, for where we're going.
It does.
And so this one's going to be a little longer, but we do want to make sure we're glorifying the Lord with this, and we want to talk about what he's doing in our life. And so let's transition to segment number 3 of what the Lord is teaching us this week. And so I'll open up to you, Bruce. What has the Lord been teaching you?
On a quick note, as we were talking about, you know, your beautiful new bow hanging on the wall here, you know, and your desire to get out there and slay something with your new bow, my thought was all about God's timing. Is in your timing and in your will and in your planning, you had these desires to get out there and do something, and the earth said no. So it reminds me that we don't always get to do what we want in our own time, especially if we don't commit stuff to the Lord. I'm not saying the Lord said, Daniel, you're not going to shoot a deer this year. It just made me think that so often in life. And even this week, my schedule's been a mess with work and some stuff at home, and now with this storm coming in tonight. So I plan and things change. So I have to learn more and more, and I'm always being taught that I have to commit more of what I do to the Lord and understand that things happen in his timing and in his will. And when things don't happen the way I think they should or when I want them to, I still have to give him glory in it. Somehow find a way to give him glory in whatever comes.
Yeah. What would you say are some kind of practical ways that you kind of have to reground yourself in that, just to kind of get yourself out of that rut of maybe thinking, you know, why is it not happening the way that I want to have it happen, or maybe being frustrated that the timing is not the timing that you hoped for? You know, how do you kind of reground yourself through that?
I mean, I just try to look inward a little bit and see what it is I'm really trying to accomplish. Number one, as like we talk a lot in our small group about how we set the course of our day. Do we really commit it to the Lord, or do we just run with our own plan or whatever? You know, and I think ultimately, for me, if I just try to set my mind in a tone of, okay, I'm going to commit this day to the Lord, to try to bring him glory in it, and whatever comes. And if it's not what I want, I have to learn to deal with it. You know, and the more that I strive to give it to the Lord, I think he gives me more ways to deal with my disappointment in it not happening in my way.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. Yeah, that's encouraging, and I think challenging too, because I think so often, I mean, it's not only life, but it happens in the outdoors a lot too, where we have expectations of how things are going to go. how we would like them to go, how comfortable it may be, and things can change instantly. Weather can change. You being able to get into a tree stand,
or your buddy tripping over a log trying to sneak into the turkey woods.
Yeah, public service announcement. If you want the ability to shoot birds, don't hunt with Bruce, because he may get a leg cramp that absolutely just sends him squirming through the entire woods right before first light.
Just so that doesn't make you ask, Lord, what was that about? Nothing will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes me think, though, just more seriously as far as, life applications go, just of that of that verse where, your ways, Lord, are not my ways, and my thoughts are not your thoughts. And so just that that whole idea of Psalm 25, 4 through 12, show me your ways, O Lord, teach me your paths, guide me in your truth and in your faithfulness. And there's a lot of scripture out there that really just acknowledges, we live in a fallen and broken world.
Amen.
And we mentioned Dave, and not to get into it too much, Dave was in an accident, was severely injured. We prayed for a long time for Dave to be healed. And I think both you and I would say he wasn't healed necessarily the way that we wanted him to be healed.
Definitely not the way we would.
No. But he did get that ultimate healing. He's now, without a doubt, fully restored with the Lord. And so that was a hard moment to even kind of live that out of like, okay, it's not our timing, Lord. It's not how we would want it, but we have to trust that you have this.
And through that, we were given the opportunity over and over and over to live our faith out loud, that we believed that he was truly in God's hands, and that we would stand by whatever the outcome was. And we went through months of anticipation and heartbreak and tears. But at the same time, we saw people asking questions like, you guys are handling this a lot different. So we were truly able to glorify God even in the depths of Dave's injuries and his suffering through those few months there. We have to look at the positives that came from it. I mean, it was truly like beauty from ashes.
Yeah. And just to give that firm scripture reference, Isaiah 55, 8 through 9, for my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts.
Amen.
Yeah, that's good. Good. Well, hey, thanks for joining us on the podcast this week. We plan to hopefully do this once a week and release an episode. So make sure you follow, hit that like button, do whatever you have to do to share this with your friends. If you have somebody that's in the outdoor space who maybe doesn't know the Lord yet, this is a great way to maybe introduce them to a couple self-proclaimed knuckleheads.
Absolutely.
Who love Jesus and want to glorify him through everything we do, and we're going to have a great amount of fun along the way.
Tune in. There's some funny stories coming, I'll tell you.
Awesome. All right, well, have a good week, everybody, and we will catch you next time.